It's Championships weekend as King of Bots, Robots Live and BattleBots all crown their winners all this week in robot combat.
2, 1, activate.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Robot Combat. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've had a lot of news this week and I'm going to do my very best to cover all of it. There's a lot of BattleBots. There's a bit of King of Bots, there's some Robots Live stuff. It's Championship weekend, which is awesome. I hadn't even realised until when I was putting this thing together that we were in a weekend full of Championship finals. So without further ado, let's start with the first one, which of course was BattleBots on Friday night. This episode was awesome. Truly awesome. There were some amazing fights in the round of 8 and the semi-finals and the grand final itself. Bit of a shame that the same people won again, spoiler alert for that, but we'll go through it. So the first fight we had was Death Roll versus Minotaur. This was an amazing fight. Death Roll, bearing in mind in Season 2 of BattleBots, did really quite poorly. It lost to Captain Shredderator and it was out. It also had a rumble, which it did win the rumble, but ultimately, yeah, it lost to Captain Shredderator in the main competition, and that was that. They came back this year, they went 4-0, and everyone thought, oh, lucky them. Then they went through the round of 16 beating, I forget who they fought, Yeti, that's it. They beat Yeti, and everyone's like, oh, okay. Then they came up against Minotaur, and they beat Minotaur. And I think at this point everyone's going, right, this robot is awesome. And I am also one of those people who went, right, this robot is awesome. Having not been able to predict a single Death Roll match all throughout this season, when it came to the round of 16 fight against Yeti I didn't think would have anything for them. And I was right. And then Minotaur came up as the next fight, and I thought they could get Minotaur. They could take them on and they could beat them if they're very lucky, and if they're very well driven, and if Minotaur underperforms, which it did at the start of the season. And I think after a full season of long fights, Minotaur have finally died. And there we are, Death Roll through to the semi-finals, and who at the start of the season thought Death Roll was going to be a semi-finalist? Certainly not I, certainly not many others. The next robot that fought, I'm not going to do them in order of which one fought, Witch Doctor went up against Sawblaze, and all throughout the week, knowing that this fight was coming up, I was thinking this has to be a Witch Doctor win. Yes, Witch Doctor can ride up onto Sawblaze, but Sawblaze with the hammer saw rocks backwards slightly, and it gives Witch Doctor an opportunity to hit them, and hit them they did. Witch Doctor dominated this fight. They did incredibly well. I think they got turned over a couple of times. I can't remember whether it's in this fight or another one, but this was an awesome fight. Really good. Witch Doctor were on top for the majority of the fight, and they went and won it. And Sawblaze went out of the competition, and no offence to Sawblaze, they're an amazing robot, an amazing team, and they got even further this year than they did last year. Next year perhaps they could be semi-finalists, who knows, but I wanted Witch Doctor to win more, and so Sawblaze had to go. Going over to the other side of the bracket, Bite Force took on Lockjaw, and this again was a really close battle, or it seemed to be at the very start. I had Lockjaw to win this one. I thought those forks were getting under everything this season, and they did start off by getting underneath Bite Force. Unfortunately, the way that the forks articulate, if they hit Bite Force, they sort of pivot themselves up, and that's where the spinner is, and it just bye. So they were turned over, and then eventually Lockjaw was silenced, and Bite Force took the win. And what a way to win that fight. Not an easy win for them. Definitely not against Lockjaw and Donald Hudson, but a superb win nonetheless. We then had Tombstone versus Whiplash as the final round of 8 matchup, and this is a rematch from last year. Whiplash very nearly beat Tombstone before being absolutely obliterated, and Tombstone skipped the bit where they were going to be nearly beaten this year and just decided to obliterate Whiplash again. And it is a shame, because I think Whiplash, if it was, I don't know, it seemed a bit less sturdy this season than it did last season. I don't know what the difference there is, but I think given the right scenario, they could definitely take Tombstone at some point, and I thought that might happen in this episode, but it didn't, and Tombstone won that match reasonably easily, actually. Now I'm going to stay with Tombstone as they went up against Bite Force in the semi-finals, and everybody was calling for this fight. Everyone was actually calling for this as the championship fight, which personally I'd have hated, because these two robots have had the giant nuts throughout the reboot of BattleBots, and I wanted somebody else to win this year. Didn't happen, but there we are. So we had this fight, and it was over very quickly. It's not really a fight, is it? Tombstone got knocked upwards. Its bar split because I think it hit the weapon, and a wheel came shooting off for some reason, and that was sort of it. Tombstone obviously had a lot of stresses throughout the year. Bite Force is a strong opponent, and Tombstone lost. And that was that. Bite Force through to another grand final match. On the other side, we had the wild card to this competition, Death Roll, going up against Witch Doctor, who were my picks to win the season. And quite honestly, this fight could have gone either way, and I would have been happy if this fight had gone either way. It didn't go either way. Witch Doctor won it. Again, quite convincingly. The weapon was taken out, and then every time Death Roll got turned over, they had to self-right using the arm. So I think it's the first time we've actually seen the arm in action. So I'm really pleased it actually worked. I love that arm. It's great. It really is fun. And a shame for Death Roll not to go through to the grand final, but there's always next year, and if they can do as well as they did this year, then they could be champions, quite honestly, and I would love that. I would also love a Death Roll Hexbug toy, because I think they thoroughly deserve one, but more on that in a different video I have planned. So, the grand final match, Bite Force versus Witch Doctor, an interesting matchup. I don't think these two robots have fought before, at least not on TV, correct me if I am wrong, but this was a good match, and Witch Doctor were strong in the first minute. They were taking the wedgelets off, doing everything they needed to get into Bite Force's main chassis, or for our American viewers, chassis, I think chassis? I don't know. Anyway, they, in my opinion, Witch Doctor should have gone for the bulkhead that they exposed instead of going for all 4 wedgelets, because I think that may have been their downfall. They went up a wedgelet, got hit. Their self-righter was open at that point. I think they'd self-righted before and it hadn't quite closed properly. Either that or they were a bit premature on the self-righter. The weapon had gone down at some point, and they couldn't self-right. They were stuck upside down with their Shremek open and no way of getting back up. Such a shame for Witch Doctor, such a dominant season. Really, really well done to them this year. They have proved that they are not just a pretty bot. 2 4-0 robots in the grand final. The number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. You couldn't ask for better. So Bite Force take the title for a 3rd time. Well done for them. They've got the hat trick. Now let somebody else win. Not Tombstone. Cool. Good. Nothing against Tombstone. Just don't want them to win again. And that's that. That is BattleBots 2019. I know I didn't review every episode, but the episodes I did review, I reviewed them. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not well. Let's move on to the news proper, because there's just so much of it that this video may just well go over 20 minutes. So here we go. BattleBots news just doesn't stop, as the 3 giant bolts were awarded to 3 of the teams. First of all was the Best Design Award, which went to Quantum. This was judged by the competitors themselves. Then we had the Most Destructive Robot Award, judged by the judges, and that went to Cobalt. Lastly was the Founders Award, judged by Trey and Greg, the showrunners, and this went to Hydra. Now, it's an excellent time to become a BattleBots supporter over on Facebook, as the BattleBots basement videos are coming. These are the fights that never made it to TV because there was just no time for them to make it to TV. This includes more fights with Hypershock, with Nelly, with Valkyrie, with all sorts of robots, including a special appearance from Sharkoprian, which is just awesome because everybody should love Sharko. And it looks like they're facing Bloodsport. That should be interesting. Yes, do become a BattleBots supporter on Facebook, because not only that, when the season's on, you get some exclusive early access to certain things, some exclusive interviews, all sorts of things. I'm not sponsored by them to say this, but it is a good idea, because everyone loves exclusives, don't they? Now, if you've ever wanted the chance to own a bit of BattleBots history, now is that chance, as Son of Anarchy has been broken down as it's being sold on eBay in 4 separate parts. It is a bidding war, so if you wish to get involved, do go and check out the Facebook page for the links to the eBay pages to find the bits of Son of Anarchy. The main body is part 1, and then the 3 arms are the other 3 parts. Son of Anarchy has officially been retired, and there may be something new coming from the team. In an exclusive picture that they put out on Facebook earlier in the week, it showed off what the new Son of Anarchy might look like in 2020 under the code name Sow Fusion. It's a triangle spinner with what looks like exhausts, and it looks awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. Now we move across to our second continent and our second championship, as Ubtek's King of Bots Series 2 concluded last night. This was a fast, frantic, and frenetic episode, a very good one indeed. Lots of robots got lots of fights. Vulcan got a few fights, Spectre got a few fights, Megabyte got a few fights, Zayat got a few fights. All the big names from the top 2 teams. Basically, everyone gets a fight at least. So, make sure you go and check this out. It is the final, and it's not one to miss. We are continent hopping again as we come back over to the UK. It's Robots Live, it's Stevenage, which means it's the FRA Heavyweight UK Championships this weekend. Most of the old faithful robots from the live scene are there, including Tango, Toxic, Eruption, Manta, and the rest. We also have some new competitors to Robots Live, including Nelly the Bot. We have the return of Nuts 1, which competed in Series 8 of Robot Wars. Two-headed Death Flamingo comes to the arena once again with Sam Elliott, Craig Croucher, and Joe Brown. We also have Capers fighting for the first time since it was sold. And lastly, Team Ironclads are there with all their robots, and they are the ones who have the fights up on YouTube already. So make sure you go and check out the Ironclads channel after this video, because that's where you're going to see all the action at the minute. Every episode of Robot Wars ever. And he has reached the end of that crusade for at least the UK series, as he watched the final episode live on Tuesday. And that is that for UK Robot Wars. Next up for Mike is the Dutch series, so make sure you stay tuned on the Mr. Psycho channel for that. And rounding us out for this week, we have the final trailer for Antweight Anarchy Battle of the Builders 3, where Orange Dose Overjuice will once again be going up against Two Penny Milk in a fight to the death. Well, at least the fight to the robots. This is going to be an awesome episode, and it is coming out sooner than you think. For patrons, it will be out tomorrow, which is Monday the 30th of September, and for everybody else, it will be out on the 4th of October. Exciting times ahead as Antweight Anarchy is going back to our screens. And that just about wraps up the news for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a like. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I shall see you next week for the last episode in the series of the news. This is so that I can edit other stuff like the Grand Slam. So please do bear with me. The news will return. Anything special will be covered. Awesome. Check out the Facebook page as well while you're at it. It's got news on it. Bye.